They coming yet?
Well, HMB is obviously a historic medieval battle, so easiest way to explain it is always like UFC, but we're in full plate armour with real weapons, so axes, swords, things like that. And there's different types. You've got the 1 versus 1, and then you've also got group fights called Bohurt, which is like 5 on 5, 21 on 21. And yeah, so it's a bit of a tournament style.
So Team Havoc's been around for like maybe 5 years now, 4.5. Started off with just kicking around in the paddock with boxing gloves and helmets and just punching each other in the head. And it was literally just the way that we wanted to fight as a team. So we just wanted to fight in complete disarray for the other team, like organised chaos, I guess. Just a lot of movement, running around, not staying in one spot, and supporting each other with like unconventional methods as far as the team like the sport goes. Yeah, just pure havoc in the field stuff.
So when it comes to the fighting rules, obviously we don't want to do any arm manipulation like joint locks and things like that, or twisting of the neck. No striking of the feet as well. Other than that, you go into the armour itself has certain rules, and weapons itself. So obviously there's certain dimensions of weapons you can have, weights, so you're not having a ridiculously heavy weapon so you can hurt each other, as well as armour. So it's historic. Obviously we don't want to just be wearing any fancy fantasy armour or anything like that. We want to have historic armour while we're fighting.
As far as mental preparation goes, that's really done in the early days. So when you first start fighting, you first get your armour, you have a couple of fights, you take some big hits. When you realise that your armour does its job and the hits don't hurt that much, that's when you start to mentally be more and more prepared.
Yeah, so Battle of Nations is the biggest, it's kind of like the main event in our calendar for HMB. So it brings all the countries together. Last year there was 69 teams fighting basically to see who's the best in the world, from all over the place, from Russia, Ukraine, UK, from New Zealand, Australia, America. So it's a lot of different countries.
I've only done one Battle of the Nations. It was last year in Prague, and easily the highlight of my life. It's fantastic. Rocked up on day one, introduced to all the other fighters from the other nations. Next thing, you're going full at it, fighting each other in the list, and straight after the fight, it's just everyone's best mates.
The main thing that you get out of it is, you have 500 fighters from all across the world, and you're just in the one spot for the same reason. The sport is like super violent, and at a competitive level of that scale, it gets pretty extreme. But you can walk off the field and shake hands with a guy that you've just beating the crap out of.
You do a lot of, even though I don't look like it, a lot of cardio work is probably the biggest thing. The armour itself can weigh anywhere from 20 at the very least to 40, 50 kilos. So obviously it's a lot of energy just actually wearing that.
Oh, it's good. Just trying a few techniques for certain situations in fights. So also showing how gassed out we get when we grapple. That's the hardest part of the fight.
So let's say you're doing a 5 on 5, butterflies are going crazy. Once the marshal says let's go, you've got a plan in your head, this is what we're going to do. After you actually meet the opposing team, that's out the window, it's all gone now. Because you can only plan for so much. After that, you don't know where anyone's going to be.
Walking into the list at Battle of Nations that was the most amazing feeling I've ever had. So you've got to imagine that out the front you have hundreds of fighters in full armour just waiting. Everyone's sitting around, they're all in their groups with their team. There's not a lot of back and forth, teams keep to themselves, nations keep to themselves. And then you walk through this hallway, this entry to almost like a coliseum. And it's this tunnel, everything's in depth. There's only enough room to be single file with the person in front of you. And then the team that's exiting the list is walking past you and everyone's laughing, they're patting you on the shoulder, wishing you good luck in your fight. And then around you is just a crowd. So you look up, all the way around is just packed to just the supporters and the spectators, and they're cheering and carrying on. And then you look to your left and you've got, and your right, and you've got your best mates next to you. And it's just awe-inspiring. It's fantastic. Save me, someone! Just save me!
And Bryce came over.
He's like, pushed him off me. And he was like, get out of there, Shells, and hit him. And I'm like, I can't, Bryce. And he was just like, I'm sorry.
Just ran off and just left him there. No, last year the team they took it very, very well against Russia, took down 3 of their fighters. The Russians weren't very happy about that at all. They weren't expecting Australia to come out and take them to the ground, so it was very good to see.
It's all exciting when you first get your first weapon, so your first axe for me, or your first sword. You build your first shield, you slowly get your armour together and you get more and more excited. And then it kind of accumulates into a point where you do your first real fights. You do training, you do these monthly tournaments, but it's not a real fight. Then when you get that chance to go overseas, or you get that chance to fight nationally, just within Australia, and all of a sudden you realise that you're only doing it because you're with like-minded people.
There's a different atmosphere for like every event that you go to. So training-wise, you're helping out. Everyone's there and trying to develop as fighters, and offering advice and teaching a lot more how to take on each guy and what they're going to do. And as far as the atmosphere at a local competition, the crowds generally, it's not as well received in Australia or as well known.
We actually did a series of qualifying tournaments throughout the end of last year, culminating down in Victoria. So we came out on top of every single one of those tournaments. So Team Havoc is forming Australia 1.
Camaraderie is like the meaning of the sport, for sure. You can't go out and be as violent as we are in competition and not respect everyone that's doing the sport.
Battle of Nations is a completely different beast, but whether you win or you lose, when the other team is helping you get off the ground or you're helping the other people get off the ground, the crowd's cheering. It doesn't matter who won at the end of the day. And the first thing someone says to you is like, man, that hit was awesome. You know, that really rocked me. It's just, even though the adrenaline's slowly starting to leave, you're left with this euphoric feeling of just, it's unexplainable really. Like, until you step in there and do it. Outside of fighting, we do as much as we can together. Every time there's a birthday, we get everyone together. We try to go out for dinner, a couple of times a month if we can, to really build on that friendship, that bond. As far as fighting goes, one of the key ones we have, especially if we go up against a team that we think is a bit better than us, our plan is to make sure they don't have time to have a plan. So just get in there quick, hard and fast, get in their face. If their plan is to have some kind of tactics, we just take that from them. Get in their face, try and get someone down quick. Fighting is just an added bonus, and I think that in a few years' time, if I get to a point where I can't fight, I'll still be a part of the community and helping out wherever I can, just to keep that one foot in the door, I suppose, and not lose contact with all these great people I've met.
I guess as far as lessons from, like life lessons from HMB, you learn what your limits are, and you learn how far you can push your limits. That's a big part of what the sport sort of teaches you as a person. Walking out onto the field and doing what we do isn't a small thing. And choosing to stand up and have someone beat you repeatedly when you want to sit down, but you choose to not sit down, that's a huge thing. Yeah.